GT3 drivers in iRacing. There are three types of GT3 drivers in iRacing. I mean, some argue there is only one kind, the unnecessary, but these can be split again into further groups. 1. The Flash Kid. This kind of driver only ever drove Forza and F1 on a controller with full aids on and got drawn into iRacing because someone in his social environment once mentioned how he heard that Verstappen drives iRacing. So he created an account and ever since imagined himself battling wheel to wheel with Verstappen to then be approached by Red Bull and handed the next F1 seat after Red Bull disposed with their second driver next to Verstappen for the third time this year, but he would rise to the challenge and become the next F1 world champion despite him being in his 40s and weighing 110 kilograms. In reality, he only drives multi-class races because he can't overtake for shit in his own class, and overtaking Porsche Cups and GT4s at least gives him the feeling to be fast. Starts flashing his lights as soon as a slower class car shows up within 3 seconds ahead of him. Refuses to lift and wait if necessary. Complains for minutes after he crashes into a slower class car during the overtake and tries to explain to them the meaning of blue flags, ignoring the fact that blue flags in multi-class and iRacing have a slightly different meaning than in F1. 2. The GT3 is the pinnacle of simracing, dude. Well, this kind of driver kind of exists for every class in iRacing, but I feel in GT3 they're especially dominant. Tells everyone that GT3 are the only real race cars and everything else is way too slow for them to even wake up for. Proudly shows everyone his first race win certificate and has it printed and framed above his rig. Dives into setup discussions without knowing the difference between anti-roll bars and dampers and will look at you with a disgusted face like you just suggested to him to marry his own mother if you tell him to increase ride height or increase the wing by a click or two. That's the kind of driver who will join an official session in Split 4 and use up the entire practice and gridding time to tell himself what kind of aliens he's racing against, and a top 15 finish would be a miraculous drive today, to then attempt a race-winning dive bomb in turn 1 from P19 only to cause a scene that gives Spa 1999 vibes. 3. Every GT3 driver type so far can be somewhat annoying or unpleasant to have in your lobby, but could they be shut up by putting them on track at least, or the third kind simply keep on whining on and off track? The Bob Kid. Every time I hear a GT3 driver start using the word Bob, I get a rising urge to gag them with my race socks after wearing them for a week straight without washing. What is it with you GT3 drivers with your constant yapping about Bob, especially while you're driving in 35th split with sub 2k iRating? It's funny that somehow I rarely hear 8 to 10k drivers complain about the Bob, where at their skill level it would actually make a difference. You, Jean-Luc Pascal, could simply invest the time crying into practice instead and would overcome any Bob penalty your car received. And honestly, if I read again that every time I change car that one will get bobbed to death again, fix your shit iRacing, I will give detailed reports about a seal clubbing experience in Canada where I managed to flatten a handsome group of baby seals into pocket-sized bits to then act quite surprised when I get banned that I thought that's what he meant with bobbed to death, and how he can possibly believe his life is miserable because his BMW got a 1% engine bob and 5 kg added weight, when Carl the baby seal is now spread out over roughly 200 square feet across an ice field in the Northwest Territories. GT3 is no doubt an interesting class to drive, and many people only start in GT4 to get the hang of the sim to then grasp a faster cars like Porsche Cup or GT3. But somehow it only ever seems like the typical GT3 League Discord, as well as GT3 lobby chats and forums, are like cooking a fantastic meal for your family, only to then add half a liter of gasoline to it because the cooking sherry ran out. Toxic, highly flammable, and will make everyone involved want to projectile vomit to the point where death would be a welcome relief.